What if I told you there's a guide for dealing with your deepest anger, a strategy for forgiving even your worst enemies, that's been hiding in plain sight for more than 1,600 years? Well, it all boils down to a single critical choice.
Okay, let's just imagine this for a second. Your worst enemy, the person who has betrayed you, hunted you, made your life a living nightmare, is right there in front of you. They're totally helpless, completely at your mercy. You have the power to end it right here, right now. What do you do?
You really have two options. There's revenge. It's the easy path, right? It feels good in the moment, that instant gratification. But we all know it just fuels this endless cycle of hate. Then there's forgiveness. And that is the hard path. It takes a kind of strength that's almost superhuman, but it's the only thing that can actually break the cycle for good.
And the crazy thing is, this isn't just some thought experiment. This exact choice played out for real in a dark cave about 3,000 years ago, and it involved one of the most famous underdogs in history.
So this brings us to our first section, a chance for revenge.
So picture this. The scene is incredibly tense. King Saul, the ruler, is just eaten up with jealousy for the young hero David, and he's literally hunting him down to kill him. So David and his guys are on the run, hiding out like fugitives. And then, in this wild twist of fate, Saul walks right into the very cave where they're hiding and falls asleep. He is completely helpless. You can just hear David's men whispering, "This is it. God has given you your enemy. Do it."
And David gets up. He creeps towards Saul. You can feel that temptation, the adrenaline pumping. But instead of using his sword, he does something weird. He just quietly cuts off a little piece of the king's robe. And in that one small act, he gets a grip, he gets control of that burning anger, and stops his men from doing anything worse.
But here's the twist. This whole explainer, it isn't just about this ancient story. It's really about the absolute genius of an orator who, 1,400 years later, took this dramatic moment and spun it into one of the most powerful lessons on forgiveness and anger management ever.
And that brings us to the real star of our show today, a man they called the Golden-Mouthed Preacher. His name was John Chrysostom. He was living back in the 4th century, a really chaotic time. He starts out as a priest in this big, bustling city called Antioch, and that's where he first preaches about David and Saul. He was such an incredible speaker that he eventually becomes bishop of the capital, Constantinople. But his life was no cakewalk. He made some very powerful enemies, got exiled, not once but twice, and actually died in exile. So this guy knew what it was like to have enemies, which is what gives his words so much power. No wonder they nicknamed him Chrysostomos, which literally means golden mouth.
So, what did this golden mouth actually say? Well, his lesson was all about taming the inner beast. You see, for Chrysostom, anger wasn't just, a bad mood or some minor personality flaw. He saw it as something way more serious, a sickness of the soul. He even called it a form of temporary madness, like a fever that just totally clouds your judgment and makes you spiritually sick. For him, anger isn't something you just manage, it's something you have to cure.
So, what was the cure? Chrysostom points to this very specific virtue, and it has a Greek name, anexikakia. Now, this isn't just your everyday run-of-the-mill patience. This is the kind of patience you show when you have all the power to strike back, but you make a conscious, active choice not to. It's patience from a position of absolute power.
And this is the key difference. Think about the story of Job from the Bible. The guy suffers horribly, but he's completely powerless. His kind of patience, called hypomone in Greek, is about passive endurance. He has no choice but to take it. But David's patience, anexikakia, that's an active virtue. He had the sword, he had the elements of surprise, he had all the power, and he chose self-control. For Chrysostom, that is real strength.
But how did Chrysostom make this lesson so unforgettable for his audience? Well, that leads us to the storyteller's secret.
See, Chrysostom was a master communicator, and he knew that to teach the perfect lesson, you need the perfect story, even if it meant doing a little, let's call it, creative editing of the original text. He was sculpting an ideal.
Get a load of this. In the actual Bible, David marries King Saul's daughter. But in Chrysostom's sermon, nope. He has David humbly refuse the offer to make him look extra humble, and it gets better. The Bible says David later takes care of the crippled son of his best friend Jonathan. Chrysostom changes that detail. In his version, David cares for the crippled son of his enemy, Saul. That just amps up the forgiveness lesson by a factor of 1,000. So why would he do that? He wasn't trying to pull a fast one. His goal was something modern scholars call a therapy of the image. He knew that to cure that sickness of the soul in his audience, he had to give them a perfect, crystal clear picture of virtue, a spiritual hero they could literally hold in their minds and try to be like.
So what does all this mean for us, 1,600 years down the road? Well, what we have here is basically an ancient emotional hack.
The big lesson here goes way beyond just turn the other cheek. Chrysostom's point is that real forgiveness isn't passive. It's not enough to just stop yourself from getting revenge. You have to take an active, even radical next step.
And he basically lays out a 3-step plan. Step 1. Master your inner anger. Practice that anikikia. Choose restraint even when you have the power. Step 2. Seek your enemy's conversion. Don't just let them off the hook. Act in a way that is so merciful it actually helps them see the error of their ways and changes their heart. And finally, step 3. Become a physician for their soul. You have to totally change your perspective. See your enemy not as someone to hate, but as someone who is spiritually sick and needs your help to get better.
And let's be really clear. This is not about being a doormat. It's not about letting people walk all over you. This is a strategy of incredible psychological strength. It's about understanding that the ultimate power, the real victory, isn't in destroying your enemy, but in transforming them.
You know, in our world today, a world just overflowing with conflict and division, this advice from a guy in the 4th century feels more relevant than ever. It's a challenge to look at our own fights not as battles we have to win, but maybe as sicknesses that need to be cured. Which really just leaves us with one final question to think about. Who in your life needs you to be their David?